Good afternoon. Um, so getting on to our small project in Wayanad district of Kerala, which falls in the Western Ghats. The Western Ghats, or the Sahyadri mountain range, covers an area of 160,000 square kilometers to the western coast of the Indian peninsula. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is sometimes called the Great Escarpment of India. It contains a very large portion of the country's flora and fauna, many of which are endemic to this region. They are older than the Himalayas. Many areas in the Western Ghats were designated as World Heritage Sites in 2012. 19 out of 39 of them reside in Kerala. These mountains and the dense forests contribute to the precipitation of the area, being our main source of water. This geographic uniqueness creating this particular climatic region also hosts one of the 36 biodiversity hotspots in the world. The Western Ghats face a lot of challenges in the form of poaching, deforestation, forest fires, and dangers to native tribes. So these are facts. But one challenge that interests our fraternity is the sprawling built development that loom around these beauties for us ever curious humans to come and frolic in the rejuvenating ambience of the land. But where is the respect and gratitude? As selfish and greedy as always, we tend to overexploit for our own twisted reasons. In this age of climatic change, global warming, loss of our biodiversity, and these challenging times of survival, one would want to think not twice but 100 times when intervening in these fragile lands. What is a solution that is justified to the times? What is a solution that is practical and makes human intervention minimal, mindful, and one that reconnects us to nature? I am her and she is I. Our project is in a humble 1.74 acres with preserved land, forest land on two sides. It was a great challenge to even traverse the land, let alone build in it. There were no significant large trees, but all very tall, narrow ones that did not give many clearances around as buildable land. The loitering monkeys in the trees and the occasional visits by a lone elephant in the adjoining forest land were sights to look out for. Though very close from a bustling, growing town center in Mepadi, once in the site, our chaotic life was but a blur. Lack of sprawling, buildable land pushed us to ponder on ways to keep the terrain profile as it is. Vehicles were restricted outside the property. Winding paths were laid out in reference to the ease of traverse, considering the contour survey. However, we had to literally find a way through the vegetation among the tall flora and let the land itself lay out its meandering paths towards a master plan. A mere 8-foot path was intended, and while developing the land itself, paths were twisted and turned based on terrain experienced, rock formations, slope gradient, and vegetation on site. Location of the build was also revisited in this manner on site to be accommodated in small clearings, and orientation of the building also tweaked as per site condition. The busiest spots were planned on higher terrain and closer to the entry or the road, while as you go further down and inward, more exclusive spaces were laid out. The location with views to the waterfalls on the hills opposite to the valley were used for common amenities like pool and spa, so everyone could enjoy these views at some point during their stay. Destructive land development construction processes were avoided. Fortunately, with the help of our client, the smallest digger was hired for developing the pathways, and we could keep it as minimal as possible. The dire activity of construction, how it would affect the land being modified and its surroundings was also a major concern. Local labor could be hired, educated in design needs and entrusted with the delicate cause of working the land with least disruption. Labor hired were natives of the land and could traverse the ardent slope quite easily, and hence major construction support systems like ladders, steps to bring down construction materials, etc. were not required. Ropeways tied among the trees were guides for people to move up and down. Ropeways again were used as medium to transport material one basket at a time for construction to each built location. Local labor, not being high-skilled, also brought the finishing to an imperfectly perfect quality that stood rustically in tune with the background. Every block was located to be perched off the approaching pathway, such that land essentially did not have to be dug out too much and kept it as intact as possible. This was achieved in structural steel, which had an underground anchor coming from the inside of the pathway to take advantage of the land gravity above it. The swimming pool alone was one structure which was built in concrete, owing to its static and turbulent water load. A dead end of a path into a clearing was identified, and a pool as small and compact built for the purpose. Total build was also kept to bare minimum. The kitchen with dining space was the biggest of structures with a mere 115 m square. Some cottages were combined as twin cottages to reduce the built sprawl in the site. Details like avoiding steel fencing and using natural wooden sticks to traverse the pathways and downward lighting to avoid glare in your eyes and only light up the pathways were little details designed in collaboration with the laborers. Slatted wood planks paneled on exterior walls where effective surface runoff and protected wood finish walls kept the visual aesthetics in tone with the surroundings. Interiors were also paneled in wood and designed to be felt cozier and safer. Bringing in a lot of heavy construction material in the form of stones, cement, etc. was considerably reduced because of choosing simple plug-and-play materials. Brick walls were usually used around washrooms for creating watertight spaces. Earthy materials like mud bricks, wood, thatch also helped keep the visual language in tune with the site. All this helped reduce the permanency of the build. The main portion of structural steel, being a recyclable material, could be dismantled and removed along with the short concrete footing. Basically, all built in this property could be removed from or go back to the land and land reversed to its prior form easily. The result of their effort, a boutique resort that exists just amidst, not upon or over, one that found its way through to be discovered and not imposed, opening out to the true treasures and visual treats of the destination, mingling with the native, yet cushioned in civil hospitality. Serene, perched, minimal, the resort hides away in the landscape, being one with nature as subtly as it can be. Thank you.
Kindly.
Thanks, Kirti. The presentation was done well, and I must say a lot of points that were not there in the initial documentation came up, so that was nice to see. A very direct question. Did you have any projects in mind as inspiration when you were designing this? And I ask this because, you know, a lot of times there are many similar resorts which have these tree houses, and in the end they start looking the same, apart from the fact that they open on to maybe different views. Or if I have to frame it differently, what were you trying to do different with this project?
That's the thing. When we visited the site, we actually hardly saw the site entirely in the beginning because it was hardly traversable. And I think the only intent what kept with us, rather than how can this be made different? How can what we experience now be kept intact and not changed? That was the leading thought that we went through. And how can we create that facility within the site without actually, losing any bit of experience that we had during the first visits? That was the only thing that we looked forward to, and our client was also very passionate in that front, and so whatever suggestions we were giving him, he was also taking it up in that manner, and so we could execute it also in that manner. Yeah, so.
Well, projects like this where the client is there and then there is this architect. So when you are intervening into a site which is already so sensitive, what do you think is the role of the architect to reprogram the program given by the client with respect to the site? For example, things like swimming pools. Perhaps the program has to be tweaked. So do you think?
Yeah, we did have a conversation that manner. Is it, yeah, when we say, I mean, most of that narrative is coming when I'm speaking about hospitality also. So there is a prerequisite of when you build a resort, it has to have this. So the swimming pool was one, he wouldn't let it go of. Everything else, we didn't do anything else except for the cottages. Otherwise, there were plans for activity areas and, shuttle court areas and all that was tweaked. But the pool was one thing. I think most of us who would have visited places like Vayana would agree having water is also a huge jump. So that was one thing they couldn't go back to. So, and it was a challenge for us because building a swimming pool in that site was a very difficult task. But somehow, I mean, everybody pitched into that feeling, and so it was done gently, but it had to be done. Yeah.
Hi. We visited the site, and one of the things that I was trying to observe was that it is, in terms of the construction method, because of the nature of the site, you said that things had to be brought in, and it had to be assembled, and welding was possible because of power and not so far into the forest, and so that made me think, is that the only way to intervene in this sensitive zone, or were there any references to methods of local construction, methods of how, say for example, you were not there, and the hotel was not there, and there were local communities trying to build for themselves, say 100 years back or 50 years back, what would they have done? And can that not become a sort of a template for us to understand today and view construction in that method? I mean, what I'm saying is like absolutely the idealistic condition,
Yeah.
but a reference to your studies that go back into figuring out what else, because everywhere across Kerala you will find great skill with steel. They can put up things. There are traditions of roofs which are complicated, sorted out, whether you go to Padmanabhapuram or you come to local buildings built out of steel. So that skill set exists, but my question is, what takes you beyond the obvious solutions? I almost thought that you had done local hand auger pile footings.
No.
But then right now I saw those
No, it was
trapezoidal.
Yes, concrete
things.
footings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Auger
So-
footings. Yeah. Again, it would have been much more